Good day, everyone. My name is Vitor, and I am the sixth reporter. My topic is all about the Taylor rule and the output gap. So, what is Taylor rule? Taylor rule is also known as Taylor principle. It is an econometric model that describes the relationship between Fed operational aims and inflation and GDP growth rate. The Taylor rule is an interest rate predicting future model developed by renowned economist John Taylor in 1992 and highlight in his study the Discretion versus Policy Rules in Practice, published in 1993. It indicates how central banks could perhaps adjust interest rates to take inflation into account as well as other economic conditions. The Taylor rule is a method for predicting or guiding how central banks should adjust interest rates in response to economic changes. When inflation or GDP growth rate are greater than intended, Taylor's rule proposes that perhaps the Federal Reserve's boost interest rates. The Taylor principle, according to critics, is incapable of accounting for economic jolts. So what does Taylor rule suggest? According to Taylor rule, the Federal Reserves must increase rates when inflation is well above target or when GDP growth is excessively high and above potential. It also implies that Fed should decrease rates when inflation falls underneath the desired level or when the GDP growth slows and falls short of its potential. So what is an output gap? Economists seek for the gap among what an economy produces now and what it can create in the future. The output of products and services in an economy decreases during economic recession. When things are good, though, output, which is commonly measured in GDP, increases. One aspect of this, ups and downs, often referred to as the business cycle. That whereas economists and policymakers seem to be how near current output is to a country's economic long-term potential output. That is, they are concerned not only with whether GDP is increasing or decreasing, but also with whether it is increasing or decreasing above or below prospects. This is the formula for the output gap. GDP actual minus GDP potential divided by GDP potential times 100%. So this is an example for the output gap. So if the GDP actual is 17 trillion and the GDP potential is 17.5 trillion, you have to subtract it and the result is negative 500 billion. You have to divide it to the GDP potential, which is 17.5 trillion. So it would result to negative 0.0285. And you have to multiply it to 100%. It would be negative 2.85. This is the output gap. And this is the formula for the federal funds target. Real federal funds rate plus inflation rate plus one-half inflation gap plus one-half of the output gap. In getting the inflation gap, you have to subtract the inflation rate and the real Fed funds rates. That concludes my report about the Taylor rule and the output gap. Thank you everyone and God bless.